Good afternoon, folks. Good evening, good morning, wherever you're in the world. My name is Lionel Miranda, and today I'm going to talk about the Warhammer Edmonton Open, or Warhammer Open Edmonton? One of the two. I just came back from the trip, and I want to talk about that experience. I want to talk about the list I brought. Quick TLDR, I did not do that well from a competitive perspective, but I want to talk about that too. And not everyone, of course, that goes to a tournament is aiming to win it, and that's an important aspect of these things. So without further ado, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty of the list. So just want to examine. So the list I brought was a little bit different. Before we get into that, I want to get into my own personal background. I love competitive wargaming. I love interacting with the community. I love the guys who play it. Generally speaking, vast majority of the people you meet at these events are absolutely fantastic. This event was no exception. I really enjoyed every single match I played. My opponents were all fantastic, and I had an absolutely great time. Just a little bit of background. The Edmonton Open was, I think, the first GW run event in the last conservatively 16 years. So as a North American operation, they haven't been very North American up until this point. So we were super stoked and excited that they did it. And myself and a bunch of friends boarded a plane and went over. So what were the goals? Well, obviously all of us were testing lists out and trying to figure out what we were going to bring, of course. And I was originally planning to bring Iron Jaws. They are not in the absolute best spot, but they're far from the worst. Love the army, love the models. And I had a whole entire list built, ready to rock and roll. I was just putting the finishing touches on it. And then the spoilers came out for the next season of 25-26 for the GHB. I saw all the scenarios, and at the time, I was a bit demoralized. I'm not gonna lie. I looked at the scenarios, and I looked at my Iron Jaws, and I looked at the scenarios, and I was like, what? And then I looked at the adjustments to all-out attack, and I was not feeling great. Just so you know, this event that was coming up was using the old GHB, not the new one, but I was already brewing lists. I was already in that zone, and honestly, I just didn't want to bring Iron Jaws anymore, knowing that the next season I wasn't being too. Well, I didn't think I was in that great of a position. I am not saying that Iron Jaws, by the way, suck going into the new season. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just telling you how I felt at the time. So I was experimenting with something else. Time was running out. And long story short, I decided to just YOLO. I played 2 games with this list before the actual event. Won one, lost one, just testing out durability and some of the mechanics. I thought it was super, super cool. And to be completely frank with you, I wasn't really too concerned about the results. I had not personally gone to a tournament in over a year, folks. Many reasons for that. One is this channel right here, right now. This absorbed a lot of my spare time, and running a business, 2 kids, hockey, cheerleading, wife, it just absorbed a bunch of time, and I just really couldn't go out to any events. I decided to focus on the channel and get material out. So there you go. I just went for the event, paid a bunch of money to just go have a good time is basically what the main goal was. I was hoping to win at least two of my matches, and I think I got there. So there's the background. So understand that, and you're like, for those competitive that are watching the event, you're like, wait, why the heck would I be paying attention? Hold on one second. What I'm saying is, I think this list got legs, and for those of you that have played much better than I, you might be able to leverage more out of this army, and it might be worth looking it over. It is very different than anything you've ever seen before, and I think it has tremendous legs in team play, basically. I think it really is quite unusual, and there you go. All right, so there it is. There's the actual setup. Let's actually talk about the list. Gaio, my friend, if we can get Horticulus up and going up on the screen there. So let's talk about the list in general. The list is composed of 1 regiment and 14 auxiliaries. That's right, 14 auxiliaries. I'm going to tell you right now, every single opponent that I sat across the table was just, what the heck is this? And they were right. This was very, very different. So starting from the top, the general, Horticulus. He's my man riding the snail. He's okay rules-wise. He's tilting the scales at 150 points. He's got 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 flat damage. And his best buddy, Mulch, is basically a Beast of Nurgle. 1 less attack though, so 4 attacks, 4s, 3s, neg 1, D3 damage. Let's talk about that profile for 1 second. It doesn't sound all that great, but when you multiply that profile by like 15, possibly 16 times, I'll explain where the possibility comes from. It actually can hit unusually hard when damage squirrels through. And that 1 rend is enough to negate all-out defense, and now your opponent is saving on whatever profile naturally that they have. At D3 damage, these little toads, if you look at the army, I'm using the Forge World Plague Toads to represent my Beast of Nurgle. I absolutely adore these models. These are legit Forge World models. Thankfully, none of the guys in Edmonton were calling me out on it. These are not 3D prints. I'd love to say it's on file, GW, but you guys erased all the files when you went from Forge World and amalgamated. Whatever. Point is, these are legitimately GW models, and I just love the toads. I think the toads even match the theme of the whole Garden of Nurgle much better than the beasts. And I think they represent the mechanics for beasts a lot better as well. I'll get to that in a second. Back on Horticulus Slimix. So he's okay in a fight, but if he's in a fight, it's probably not a good position for him to be. The main reason why you take him is basically he gets to bring back a Beast of Nurgle. So once per turn army, so if you had another Horticulus for whatever reason, unique model, you couldn't do it twice. In my own movement phase, anytime during the movement phase, on a 3+, he can bring back a Beast of Nurgle. Question did come up, and I just want to read it to you right now. Roll a dice on a 3+ setup, a replacement unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit, more than 9 inches away from all enemy. It is a replacement unit. I believe once a unit has been replaced, it can't be replaced again. It doesn't say that in the ability, but it is how I played it at this event. If one of you thinks differently and could quote where that would be different in the rules, love to hear it. But it says replacement models. Everyone else's replacement units don't come back again. So that's how I played it. Doesn't say it anywhere else, but again, it's how I used it. All right, so he's on a 3+, he can bring back a beast, and then he can also bring back a tree. Now, the Fckulent Nar is mediocre at best. We'll get to the tree in a little bit, but it's okay. What I found about placing the tree, what made it a little bit difficult, was that in fact it had to be 3 inches away from enemy, 3 inches away from other terrain, which is what really made it difficult to actually place. It would be super nice if it was like Sylvaneth, only 1 inch away from terrain. That would have made it way easier to place on the table. But at 3 inches away from the terrain, it really felt like it got in the way most of the time. And I really didn't use more than one tree in almost all my games. 2 trees were very, very difficult to place on the table. I didn't even bother to bring my 3rd tree. If you own 3 trees, enjoy the beautiful models. I think they look freaking cool, but getting 3 trees out, really, really difficult. And Horticulus is pretty much the only source of getting trees out, which is okay. So I guess it saves you a bunch of money on terrain, I guess. All right, so that's Horticulus. So he's leading, feels very natural for him to do so because he brings back beasts and what have you. Next, War Scroll. We get down to the brass tacks and the meat of this whole entire regiment, or I should say army, which is the Beasts of Nurgle. These little guys have 5 attacks, hitting 4s, 3s, neg 1, d3 damage. And again, it's a lot more damage than you think. Anything that squirrels through, for all the reasons I just said before, really good. Surprised a lot of my opponents on how damaging they are, because a lot of times you kind of ignore the fact that, or discount the fact, because they hit on 4s. 4s is a terrible number to hit on, generally speaking. But when you have 14 individual toads doing that, it actually does do quite a lot of damage in the end. These little guys move 7 inches, but that's a little bit deceptive, and I'll get to why that is in a second. Each one of them has 8 wounds. They only have a control of 1 because they are a beast, but because the units are only composed of 1 model, a control of 1 just means that they're just normal. So if you have 6 of them on the objective, that's a OC of 6, so there's nothing wrong with that. They have a decent armor save of 5+, and I'll explain why that is decent in the next few moments. Let's go to their ability, which is where the magic happens, and that is their Attention Seeker's ability. This happens in any charge phase, so both of mine and my opponents, and it's how I led the game with and explaining my army, because it's a heck of a gotcha when you don't know what they can do. So basically, this is a charge keyworded ability. It is a core ability as well, and a move ability. But it's not an actual charge. Keyworded charge, but not actually charge. Why is that important? Well, charge has the restriction that if you perform a run ability in the previous round phases, you cannot perform a charge. Attention Seekers does not have that restriction. So although it is keyworded charge, it is not charged. So what does that mean? It means these little guys can run and then Attention Seeker in. These little guys can fall back or retreat and Attention Seeker in. Now, why is that important? Well, it marries perfectly with their other ability, which is D3 mortals on impact. And it's not bad D3, folks. It is the real legit D3. It does 1 to 3 points of mortal damage, which is absolutely fantastic. Back to Attention Seekers, though. Incredible ability, very, very powerful. One of the things I first missed this in my initial run through, because I only played 2 games with them, is Attention Seekers also has a engagement range of 1 inch, not ½ inch. What does that mean? It means if you Attention Seek and roll a 6, the enemy, all they need to do is be within 7 to complete the Attention Seek. That is a huge deal, and one I did not appreciate until my 3rd game at this event. So that would be the first point I give to all of you who are much better than I am. Read your freaking rules, and you will squeeze more juice out of this ability than I did, because oh boy, did it cost me a game. Get to that in a few moments. So that's Attention Seekers. Absolutely incredible, an amazing ability. So it really means that the base move of these beasts are actually 8 inches. So 8 to 13 inches is what their actual base move is. And that is really, really good. All right, so those are the actual beasts of Nurgle themselves. Let's get to the tree, and nothing really too exciting here. The Fckulent Nar Maw has 7 health. It has a 5-up save, and it also has a 5-up ward. This thing, much like everything else in the army, has the exact same profile as beasts. Again, only 4 attacks as opposed to 5, so 4s, 3s, neg 1, d3 damage. The fact that the thing fights is actually pretty cool. Most of the time when you place terrain, you are opening up charge lanes for your opponent, as he could charge that to get in. But in the case of this particular army, if they use that, they'll just be within strike distance of toads that you have around the tree. And again, you can trigger attention seekers on your opponent's turn. So if they go into your tree, you could then spring and clock them with multiple beasts. And then of course, because they charge, they start doing D3 mortal impacts on your opponent's turn. So often the trees are little traps if they don't appreciate what they're looking at. Again, if they're within 3 inches of the trees, they can attack. So the trees can attack, much like a beast. So that's how you can squeeze the extra beast profile out of the actual list itself. So not terrible. The tree also has another ability called Riddled with Disease. Basically, you pick an enemy within 6, I believe. Yeah, within 6 inches. And on a 4+, they get a disease. Is this once per army? It is indeed, which is a real shame. Because what's wrong with if you had multiple trees? It would have a purpose to have multiple trees on the table if each one of them just had the ability and it wasn't once per army. The disease mechanic is kind of bad. Most of the time, you're facing armies that can heal it right off, and it takes so much to get these things going. These things meaning the disease, but whatever is what it is. 4+, you could squeeze a disease onto a unit. This is in addition, so that is pretty cool. So not only is being close to the enemy within combat range, you could pick one enemy that's within combat range of a thing and give it a disease. The tree can also hand out a disease on top of that. So you could potentially have 2 units with disease counters on them, potentially doing bad D3 mortal wounds. You are starting to appreciate the army as a whole, and if you haven't, quick TLDR, the army is really all about mortal wounds. Not only on impacts, not only from disease. The other cool thing about the beast being 8 wound models is you can actually power through. And that is also really cool when you're banging into. Most things don't have 8 wounds. Obviously the big monsters do. You won't be able to power through those, so you can't power through a Kragnos, but you can power through every single cavalry in the game basically, minus other Nurgle cav, like the big flies have 8 wounds, the mortal ones. But again, most cav only have 5 at most. So being able to impact for D3 and then power through at the end of the phase. And what's really sweet is when you power through, it unlocks a potential wonderful positional option of being able to basically take priority and be able to move out and maybe charge something else in the latter turn at the beginning of a round. It is a really, I can't stress this enough, really cool ability. And the combination of abilities, again, Attention Seekers really is awesome. So looking at the list, 14 toads that can all charge on your turn, their turn, potentially power through, potentially do more mortal damage with disease. How's that sounding to you? Not bad, right? I mean, the list was tremendously fun to play. Loved interacting with all my opponents, but alas, there is a downside. So what's the downside? Very wound dense armies. Armor save's not as big a deal, But going into something like a really heavy Gits build with lots and lots of grots, that would be rather difficult. Flesh Eater Courts, if they're banging out a bunch of ghouls, that could be a problem as well. Gluttons, a lot of ogre lists that are rocking a ton of gluttons. There was a player there, Carson, who brought his Team Canada list. I did not want to face that. Literally told the guys before the event on the way there, it's like, oh gosh, I hope I don't face that list. I would have, I would say no chance, but odds would not be good. So there is a weakness, and it involves wound density. The upside goes into elite armies really, really well. Things like Stormcast, even Slaves to Darkness, anything with a low model count and not necessarily a lot of healing, because of course healing just negates one of their allegiance abilities, which is disease. It just feels like it's so hard to get off and have it stick. Goes nowhere quick. So anything that heals, generally speaking, is also quite disappointing for us. But oh man, those armor saves don't mean much of anything. So let's talk about the experience. Edmonton, genuinely, absolutely fantastic. I loved all my opponents. First game, first match. I didn't want to go into a wounds dense army, so guess what? That's right, we went into Ratogres. He had taken, he being Dave, shout out to Dave, absolutely fantastic opponent. Played, oh gosh, Fleshmeld if I remember correctly. So I had hordes and hordes of Ratogres on the field, plus the big giant mutant thing that was wobbling around, also regenerating wounds. And then another guy that helped regenerate wounds. You get the picture. Not only was it very wound dense for me, so my mileage varied, so he went wider than I was hoping. He also had a phenomenal shooting profile that really just chipped me down. And again, although I'm great into elite, I'm an elite army myself. And as soon as you start burning through that little tiny armor save that I do have, decent enough, but a CP isn't protecting much of anything in the list. These are 14 individual models, 15 actually if you count Horticulus. So a CP is not really being leveraged as well as it would in most lists. So needless to say, I got clapped in the first round. I got an absolute shellacking. It was something like 50-14, but a phenomenal guy. I really appreciated playing into him. It made the impact of the loss much less. Again, shout out to Dave. Really enjoyed playing him. Round 2, went into Eidenet Deepkin. Now, Eidenet Deepkin, I was like, okay, I think I got a chance. The gentleman that was playing Eidenet Deepkin, his name was Pendleton. Shout out to Pendleton. Pendleton was fantastic. Another brilliant guy. He was a lot of fun to play, super chill. I don't know how else to put it. I felt like I was like talking to a surfer. Man, just want to have a good time. So he was fantastic. His army was painted beautifully as well. Super enjoyed the game. So we were playing and I was neck and neck. In fact, we were so neck and neck that little mistakes really had massive impact on the game. So what does that mean? Well, Pendleton had declared a battle tactic. I can't remember what it was, but unfortunately, he had lost his presence of mind, shot the thing that he was going to complete his battle tactic, and unfortunately failed his battle tactic. That was enough to pretty much secure, air quotes, the win for me, and it was going to cost them the game. So it got down to the point where he had to do a Hail Mary pass. There was no other way than to risk a unit of eels to try and complete the battle tactic. He understood that I could charge on his turn. I had suffered through all the strike first on round 3. We're entering round 4. and he saw a line of play. I guess he had picked Slay the Tyrant, I think, at the time, so he wanted to kill my Horticulus. I, of course, had a bunch of toads around Horticulus, and he also wanted to capture my home objective, which in that scenario would have been a value of 5 points. So he lines up, completes the charge. I got 3 toads that are within striking distance of the eels themselves. He got into combat with one of them, and Horticulus. I had 2 toads that are roughly about 3 inches away, another toad that was 4 or 5 inches away. Well, what happens? At the end of his phase, of course, I trigger Attention Seekers. So what happens? Well, first toad, roll Snake Eyes, fail a charge. Second toad, roll Snake Eyes, fail to charge. Third toad, this is the guy that was only like 4 or 5 inches away. I think I rolled a 4, so I believe he was 5 inches away. Failed to charge. Okay, that was absolutely terrible. So not only did he kill Horticulus, he actually squirreled in with 4 eels and scooped up the objective as well. And that swing cost me the game, and I lost that one. So you're like going, well, didn't you just say, Lionel, that Attention Seekers had a 1-inch engagement? That's right, folks. I did not know that. I'll explain how I figured that out in a few moments. But I didn't lose that game because I rolled badly. I lost that game because this guy's a moron and didn't read his rules properly. So the 2 snake-eyed toads would have actually made it in, and in fact, I am pretty sure the other toad would have made it in as well, depending on where he pulled casualties. That would have been an average of 4 mortal wounds if just 2 of those toads made it in. That would have peeled off one of those eels, and again, I had all out defense Horticulus, and I think he only killed him by like 1, maybe 2 wounds. So the odds were, if those charges just had completed, he would have failed his battle tactic. I would have cinched that game. Oh, I'm just an idiot. That's the problem. So if you're not an idiot, you could do much better with this list. So I lost that one, but hell, I gotta tell you, it was a great game. Really enjoyed playing Pendleton. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I think he went by Penn, generally speaking, because most dumbass people like myself couldn't pronounce his name. But great, great guy. Really enjoyed that game. All right, so that was game 2. We'll go into game 3. Well, game 3, I believe I went into Matt. And Matt was playing Stormcast. Now, Matt was also a fantastic guy, but actually a guy from my neck of the woods. We had never played a game because he just recently got back into competitive play. And because I had taken a 1-year break, we've never actually played a game against each other. So it was a real pleasure playing Matt. And Matt and I were vibing pretty hard. Both of us were here to have a great weekend away from the wives and the kids. So he also shared a little bit of information about himself that got me a little bit emotional. I'm not gonna lie, Matt, that kind of hit me in the feels. And we just had the most just fantastic game. That game was all about the reason why I went to Edmonton, is what I'm gonna say. Really enjoyed playing that game. All right, so what happened? Well, he was playing Stormcast, and like I said before, the actual Beast of Nurgle played absolutely fantastic into that matchup, to be fair. As it just so happened, Matt was going to actually play. Oh, let me get my screen up here. I want to get to the actual, make sure I'm not being an idiot. As you can tell, I want to make sure, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering it right. Doopy-doopy-doo. let's just get to this. Go to, all right, do that. Pairings, let's go to pairings. Anyway, we were there. Stormcast, his Stormcast army was absolutely gorgeous. Beautifully painted Stormcast army. And we were, again, having a great time. In the end, I did take that game, but it felt more like it was just a bad matchup for him, to be honest. It just felt like the Toads were too much of an answer to his army in total. I think going into round 2, I had gained priority. The previous round, he had moved up with Krondus and a bodyguard. He had then also capped with Reclusians. They were in a forest. So captain objective, repositioned into the forest, I think. Either way, they were fairly well protected. Reclusians are kind of like Chosen, Stormcast Chosen, so it can hit very, very hard. And everything in the army had a 5-up ward, which would normally be pretty darn good, but the volume of mortal damage that the Beast of Nurgle, this Beast of Nurgle list can pour out really tested that. And unfortunately, for him, it didn't come out in his favor. His round 1 moved in position. I cleared out his bodyguard unit at the end of the turn, 1 priority, retreated out, did some damage to Krondus, retreated out, and then smashed Krondus off the table with just a volume of mortal wounds. And then also dogpiled his Reclusians and pretty much wiped them out as well. The game more or less resolved fairly quickly. We had piles of time to go chat, potentially go have a beer and what have you. It was an absolutely phenomenal game, but again, it just underscored how well the actual Toad list or Beast list can really spike quite hard into elite armies. So that was day 1. So I had 1 victory, 2 losses, all 3 great guys. I was actually feeling pretty positive at the end of day 1 simply because I just had some fantastic matches. We'll go into day 2. Well, my day 2, I went into, it wasn't, give me a second. I went into, Dylan. Dylan was from the West Coast, and he was rocking Night Haunt. Dylan was super sweet guy, and again, we had an absolutely fantastic game. In the end, the Beasts of Nurgle were triumphant, and their biggest, again, the biggest advantage of being a ghost is your 4+ basically invulnerable save, your 4+ unmodifiable save, and the Toads don't really care about that. They just impacted in, caused a whole bunch of mortal damage, and we were just chipping away. Because the Toads do D3 damage, anytime he missed a save, it actually hurt quite a lot. And these were often single wound ghost models, so lots of ghosts were being deleted. In the end, yes, the Beast of Nurgle did take the field. Again, we were just chilling, having a great time. Really loved playing Dylan. Super nice guy. He knows a lot of the same people I know out west. And shout out to Dayton, who couldn't actually make it out to the actual event itself. Missed you, buddy. It would have been really nice to see you at the event, but it is what it is. Dylan is part of his crew of guys. And it speaks a lot to the community out west. Again, absolutely fantastic guy. Now we head into the last battle. I'm now batting 500. I've already achieved what I wanted to achieve. We go into the last game. The last game was against Gloomspite Gitz. Well, as it just so happens, folks, I have a rather large Gloomspite Gitz army, and he and I commiserated over the army and how terrible the book is. And he was having a pretty good time at the event himself. His army was also really, really well painted. I loved his Kragnos, which is like a combination of a Forge World troll hag holding on to the chain of this large, gigantic, gargantuan squig. And it was off of this, I'm gonna call it a butte. It looked absolutely fantastic. And his army had a bunch of OSL on it as well, with glowy mushrooms, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful army. He had initially set up his army, and I identified it a line of play. The line of play, of course, he had set up a screen of grots, and behind that screen of grots, like over here, was Kragnos, and then a unit of Bounders. His shrine was over here, and off to the side of that was a herds. So as if you or me, I identified it, and I'm like, okay, I can actually tie up a whole bunch of stuff. So what did I do? I auto ran the actual beast, one beast, 13 inches in. It made a successful charge, and when I charged, I clipped not only the grots, I got within 3 inches of the Bounders, and I got within 3 inches of the herd. Also, I was basing the actual shrine, the loon shrine. All right, so here's where I committed the error. Great idea, had a phenomenal line, but I then attacked the herd. The little guy spiked a little bit too hard, did 6 damage, and Jacob, God bless his heart, removed all the squigs that were around. Ergo, I was no longer engaging the herd. Now, Jacob later on said in that round as he was attacking me that he didn't mean to disengage because he really wanted to attack the actual beast of Nurgle. And as it just so happened, that really was to his benefit. Because what happened in his next turn? Well, he juices up the herd, allows them to run and charge because he had a rabble-rouser that popped up in a corner, and then was able to 3d6 charge with Kragnos, because Kragnos came out of the from behind the screen. Well, that herd literally cost me the game. Why am I saying that? That herd was responsible for killing 4 of my toads, just all by themselves. And if I did not attack them to disengage them, it would have been fine. Everything that had hit the beast before in the prior round only had inflicted 2 damage. If all those guys had attacked, it wouldn't have mattered. At most, they would have maybe done another 4, maybe 5 damage, because I had all out defense the toad, of course. If I just had attacked the Loon Shrine and not attacked anything else, I would have tied up that whole entire army. Those guys would have not have killed the 2 toads that were on the objective that he then capped. And then wouldn't have then rushed into to help out Kragnos and countercharge and killed another 2 toads. So this little small error on my part cost me the entire game. Why do I say that? Well, I killed Kragnos, because guess what? These beasts are very good at killing anything elite. Even if you do have a 5-up board, I just dogpiled him, lifted him, and if I had just got that unit engaged, well, there it is. There was my mistake. If you're a better player than I, you wouldn't have done that, and you would have won that game. And if you had won that game, you would have won 3-2. But as it was just I only went 2-3. But 2-3 into a fantastic event with some fantastic people playing it. So there you go. 2 things I would love for you to take away from this video. 1, ain't nothing wrong going out to an event to have just a good time. I honestly had no expectations. I had, again, only played 2 games prior with the actual list itself. And the big enjoyment I got out of playing this list was actually seeing my opponent's reactions to 14 auxiliaries. So 14 auxiliaries meant that my opponents, because I had more auxiliaries than they did, that meant that they got an extra CP every single round, which normally is a big deal. But I'm going to tell you, folks, it meant nothing. It really just didn't mean much of anything at all when I was playing. Never did I feel that my opponent getting an extra CP around felt like they had a massive advantage on me. I also had no wizards in this event. Again, I didn't feel that either. I just dispelled everything the old-fashioned way by bumping and grinding into it if they got too close. And I just lifted manifestations. Again, because I can do that on both my... I could charge or attention seek on both my turn and my opponent's turn. It really didn't feel the spells. Where I felt it, I gotta say, is if they got off a buff, and I was like, oh, can't interact with that. If there was a place of power that was close to my deployment zone, I did take advantage of that as many times as I could. I snuggled up Horticulus right up to that place of power. Again, this is the old rules, not the current new rules. And always roll for the place of power to get an unbind. But other than that, didn't really feel the fact that my opponents had wizards. Didn't care that they had an extra CP. This list is just absolutely fantastic. Don't take my 2-3 results as an indication of whether this list is worth playing. I am super stoked and excited. If any of you get inspired to try it out yourselves, please comment below or just message me if you got some real good traction from the list, especially if you were inspired by this video to try it out yourselves. Going into the new season, let's talk about what adjustments I would do. Well, potentially you could replace Horticulus with the new priest, because now he has a priest lore. The Harbinger is absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, I do not think, even though they're a direct swap and prayers are pretty powerful, that he really benefits the army list all that much. If his prayers were like auras, holy cow, he would be an automatic in, because I found Horticulus only bringing back a beast on a 3+ to be very swingy. There was a game where you typically in a match, the only turns that matter is round 2 and 3. If you fail on either one of those 2 rounds, the ability is just meh. Yes, I did have a game where I did get those beasts out, and then I had a game where I got nothing. And that's 3+ for you. But the prayer isn't that much better. Being able to maybe juice a beast to get an extra 2 inches of move is okay. But because you can auto run, if you want to just get one beast going, you can auto run, or they can run and then attention seek. That ability's got okay mileage in the list. He can spit out some mortal wounds, but then he has to be kind of close to the enemy to do that. And I'm not too thrilled about that idea. Horticulus genuinely synergizes with the army a lot better, because at least he has a chance to bring back a beast, so that's relevant. And the trees can be okay. So if you can think of a better hero to place, let me know. Maybe there is a list where I drop a beast for a wizard. But again, the spells don't really benefit the army as a whole. I do like the, I can't remember what the spell is called, from the lore of malignancy. I believe you can curse a unit. That would actually be a debuff spell. That would actually be something that I would consider, because that would be pretty fantastic to pull off. I believe it's a -1 to hit. Let's see here, faction pack. Let's go to the faction pack. Let's go to spells. Cloying Quagmire is what it's called, I believe. It's pick an enemy within 18 inches. And what? Have the target's move characteristic until the start of your next turn. If the target's save is 3+ or better, subtract 1 from the run rolls, charge rolls, for that unit at the start of your next turn. So that would be pretty sweet to get off. The issue with that spell is it is cast on a 7, and none of the little casters really got, well, any bonuses to cast. And places of power going into the new season do not add a bonus to cast. So you have to just 50-50 coin flip to get that spell off. The enemy would have to be 18 inches. That's not bad. Fleshy Abundance is okay, don't get me wrong. But again, the beast is either going to be alive or dead. If it's alive, you get to heal D3 mortal wounds. That's not bad. But leveraging -1 to wound on one beast, that's okay. Magnificent Buboes, that's not bad. It's another curse. Until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from hit rolls for targets' attacks, and subtract 1 from casting rolls, chanting rolls, and banishment rolls from or unbinding rolls. So you have to pick a visible enemy hero to debuff. That enemy hero has to be within 18 inches, and you can make his life a little bit harder. So how do you resolve? How do you get around that to get? Well, Ratogre. Ratogre is a walking purple sun now, reducing saves, and with an aura that gets bigger. The only issue there is the guy's 430 points, I believe. Let's see.
That's the first ever in history.
Let's delete that, and let's look up Ratogre. Oh, add. There we go. All right, Roddy, where are you? Yeah, he's 430 points. I was going to say 480. So 430 points, you could slot him into this beast list, obviously at the cost of beasts. So Horticulus is 150, each beast is 130. So what would that mean? I guess you drop 3 beasts, because 2 beasts is 260, 4, yeah, you'd have to drop 3 beasts, and then you'd have a little bit of few points extra kicking around. Is that worth it? Do you rock out with 11 beasts in Ratogre? Maybe. If you do that, and they're within the aura of Ratogre, guess what? Those beasts now go to essentially Ren 2, which is sounding kind of spicy. He's also a wizard, and now he can leverage those spells, and he would get a +1 to cast natively within it. So maybe that's a potential list. So like 11 toads in Ratogre. Can't recur anything, but so maybe something to test out. That would be the only adjustments I would make there, really. Things I would consider. I would not consider the Great Unclean one. His main ability, which is bring back a unit, only works if that unit has 3 or more models, and these are all individual toads, so that's not going to work. He does kind of hit hard, but again, if you're going to go with a big giant fat man, I would pick the best fat man, and that would be Ratogre. Ratogre is definitely by far the best. All the other heroes, I can't think of anything that would be worth considering other than the heroes that I just mentioned. What else? Oh, yes, battle tactics. So going into the new season, you got to pick your battle tactics. I affectionately call them battle tactic paths. And the battle tactic paths I would pick. So Gaio, if you can get Raffle Cycles up on the screen for the folks. I picked Raffle Cycles and Attuned to Gyran. So we'll talk about Raffle Cycles first. And I feel that these 2 battle tactic paths are probably best for this type of list. And why? Well, let's get to the details. Raffle Cycles, the first one, which is a fray, which is Defiant Surge, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control more objectives than your opponent. Often when your opponent is looking at 14 toads, they're going, I don't think I really want to go first. So they tell you to go first, and it's very easy to get more than your opponent. So that's an easy 5 points right then and there. So then we go into the second, which is the Strike, which is the Daring Resurgence from Raffle Cycles. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. If you are the underdog this battle round, there is at least 1 friendly unit on the battlefield, and at least half of the friendly units on the battlefield use a fight ability this turn. This is actually not that hard to accomplish. The 14 toads love being in combat. They're relatively fast. I'm going to say real fast. And with the additional 2d6 on attention seekers on top of a run, move and run, getting your units all engaged in a fight is not hard at all. You'll have plenty of units on the field, so this isn't all that hard. let's go over it one more time. You do have to be underdog, I believe. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you are the underdog. So here's where you kind of have to engineer this score. Initially, you could probably score pretty hard between these two paths for battle tactics. So you do have to time it right and engineer it to be possible for you to be underdog. All that really means is maybe possibly stepping off some objectives and let your opponent go in, and then paying attention on your impacts. That's worth another 5 points. And again, I don't think it's that hard for this list to accomplish that number 2. Now we go to domination, and domination is just that. If you're already winning, you get to complete this one. Master of strategy. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there is a different friendly unit wholly within each large quarter of the battlefield. You control more objectives than your opponent, and there are no enemy units contesting any of the objectives you control. Well, that's kind of a hard one. But with this many models, it's very easy to be in each quarter. Potentially, if you're already winning and smash your opponent off the table, you could score. This is just a win more tactic if things are going well, but it's possible to do so with the amount of units. So I thought, again, Raffle Cycles is a good one. If you can just complete the first 2, that's plenty. If you complete 4 tactics out of the potential 6, I think you are doing absolutely fantastic, and I really do believe that the first 2 are very possible in this style of list. So let's go look at now Attune to Gyran. So Attune to Gyran, Guy, if you can get that up on the screen, buddy. It's the Affray Sacred Sensuality. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are at least 2 friendly units within 3 inches of the center. This is the old C's, the center, and with 14 models, 2 toads can easily go clip. You're guaranteed to get this, no problem. 9 inches away from the other guy's territory leaves you a 13-inch deployment zone. Even at an 11-inch deployment zone, a run will get you within 3 of that center anyway. Very easy. And if the guy wants to come at you to try to knock your toads off of off that center, well, like I said, you can charge on their turn. So they're rather wary on bringing any valuable units to the center of the table as well. So again, this is a very easy tactic for this style of list to accomplish. We go to the strike, or the second battle tactic in the path. This is called Face Strikes. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if all of the following are true. So all of it has to be true. At least 2 friendly units used a retreat this turn, and those units are now the lure units, and then at least 2 friendly units charge this turn. One of those units ended the charge move in combat with the enemy that the lure units backed away from. Well, guess what? This entire army does exactly that. They do not retreat without taking damage. So that's the only downside of this style list. They do not retreat without any penalty. But I often, and I did it throughout the entire weekend, win, lose, or draw, I retreated, took the mortal wounds, shrugged what I could, and then charged in with more impact hits. The entire army does the number 2 of Attune to the Gyran. So again, very, very easy to accomplish, and that's already 10 points. You can often be at the end of round 1 between Raffle Cycles and Attuned. You can often be at 10 points right off the bat in just battle tactics, and another 10 points on primary. So often be 20. If you want to rock for being underdog, maybe you don't go as aggressively on primary and just score the 10 on just the battle tactics themselves, and that would be a lever you can actually pull to kind of throttle your scoring a little bit. All right, so let's go to the last one for Attune to Gyran. Domination. Again, you're now hitting the stage where if you're already winning, you could just win more. Purification Rites. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are no enemy units within friendly territory and no enemy units within neutral territory. This could be rather difficult to pull off, but considering how fast, again, the army is, you can often pin your opponent on the other side of the board. So this actually is not impossible to pull off either. So there you go. How you feeling about the list? Not bad? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? Did I inspire you in any shape, way, or form? I hope, hopefully, yes. And hopefully you do better with the list than I did. But again, an absolutely fantastic list to play. I had some phenomenal opponents at Edmonton. I want to give big hugs and kisses to all of you that I played. And everyone that actually stopped by to say hi, and the fact that they actually also appreciated the channel. Thank you so much for all of you going out of your way to actually say hello. No, that was very touching as well. All right, that's it, folks. This video is now over. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you later, possibly on some streams later on this week.